Welcome everybody to C&J Speedway Review. This week we go full-on radio style. You'll just get to hear our voices and our recap of the action that was the Atlanta Motor Speedway this past weekend. My name is Chris Burns from the Loki and Jaberni Show, live streaming every Tuesday night on Facebook Live and every Wednesday downloadable into your ears on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you steal your favorite podcast from. Up there in deep, dark Massachusetts, where the weather goes from 70 to 31 in the span of 12 hours, is my man Corey Huffnagel. Corey, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well. I probably say after this weekend, I'm going to say Atlanta Motor Speedway is going to be renamed to Kevin Harvick Raceway after this was over, because not only he put on a clinic on Saturday, but Sunday he just pretty much just dominated the field. But anyways, the racing was fun this weekend out in Atlanta, and now we're off to the West Coast for the next 3 weeks, and we'll just have to see how that turns out.
Hell yeah, the West Coast swing is always fun, always exciting every year. Always a great, great turnout to all the events out there, California, Vegas, etc. But also sometimes that's where a lot of your first-time winners come in. And speaking of first-time winners, as far as my knowledge is concerned, we can start in Atlanta at the Active Pest Control 200, benefiting Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Here we go again. I got to ask you a question, Corey.
What's up?
How much longer are these race names going to get on the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series? Before you know it, it's going to be the Encyclopedia Britannica, Volume 12, page 32, reading about Richard Nixon 500, sponsored by Stay Free Mini Pads, etc. That's too much to fit on a hat and a T-shirt, man.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of names on there, but, hey, it's how the sport's going.
Yes, it is. Well, Brett Moffitt comes home with a very surprising win. What was the key to victory for Brett in that race?
So the last pit stop, I believe it was 6 laps to go. I believe he came out, I think, like third or wherever it was, and then on the restart, he restarted like behind Maya Snyder, and then once the green flag waved, he just went 3 wide on the inside, and then once he just took the lead, he just went set sailing, and he was gone from there, and nobody couldn't catch him. And then next thing you know, there was a battle for second between Sauter and Noah Gragson, and Moffitt ended up taking home the win. So not only it was his second career win, but it was actually the first time that Hattori Motorsports ended up winning as a team in the Camping World Truck Series. Because if you go back to a year ago, and I think this was like probably the second year or whatever year like they started as a team, they actually came close twice with Ryan Truex. And go back to the 2 races last year. They could have won at pretty much Pocono until they finished third to Christopher Bell. And then, of course, New Hampshire a year ago when they dominated. Well, actually, they led the last couple laps of the race, and then Christopher Bell ended up passing with like 16 laps to go. But if you look at it, this team was pretty close on winning. And I think at the start of the season, they did have team alliance with Kyle Busch Motorsports, if I'm not mistaken. But, I probably say that with Hattori Motorsports, now that they're locked into the playoffs, I would say that this is going to be a dark horse team to watch out for, not only in the regular season, but once the playoffs start, this team could be a threat, no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah, sure, because, Brett Moffitt's not exactly a slouch. He's a young driver with a lot of talent, a lot of fire, and a lot of passion. And you can see that every time he gets behind the wheel. Yeah. One of the things that I was a little surprised at, and I know I'm jumping the gun, but pole sitter Kyle Busch comes home in 21st, and there was a big problem for Kyle in the pits.
Yes, there was. And the last pit stop with about 6 laps to go, I think the team wanted to get 4 tires, and then Kyle realized, I really want to get out there, to get track position, because everyone's going to be going in and out. And let's not forget, Atlanta Motor Speedway the last few years, it always comes down to pit strategy. And we saw this in the Xfinity race, the truck race, and the Cup race, and so forth. There were a lot of drivers that took a lot of different strategies, and most of these guys either wanted to get 4 tires, so then that ought way, like they just pretty much take off like a bullet and so forth. And then not only that, like some guys will end up taking like 2 tires, for track position and so forth. And what happened with Kyle Busch was, he wanted to get out there, to see if he was going to restart in the top 5, to get himself a win or finish second or wherever. But then you look at, when he was leaving the pits, that's when the crew guy ended up waving his hand saying, wait a minute, I didn't get the lug in. I didn't get the lug nut in. And then that's when he took off. And then as soon as before he gets right into turn 2, that's when you have your wheel come off.
That's upsetting because, I felt bad for a minute. You don't want to see a guy lose position or lose a chance at a top 10, top 5 potential victory because of a loose lug nut and a wheel falling off the back of your car.
Yeah.
Then I remember it's Kyle Busch, but still, I felt terrible for him. It's no way for a guy like him to end the race. He's really my only what happened person on the list because everybody else, usual suspects toward the bottom. And then when we go over the top 10, it's a lot of usual suspects, couple surprises. Friesen, Snyder, Jesse Little being in the top 10. Great day for them. Who impressed you the most, other than Brett Moffitt? Who impressed you the most this weekend in the truck race?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to say Jesse Little coming home 8th, driving in the 97 truck. I tell you, I mean, I didn't really expect him, to get a top 5 or a top 10 finish, but good job for him. And he's only had 2 top 10s in his career. But other than that, he was the only one that kind of surprised me the most. And then other than that, another one that also impressed me too was pretty much Stuart Friesen.
Yeah, absolutely. Going through the top 10, we already said Brett Moffitt walks away with the victory. Noah Gragson 2nd, Johnny Sauter 3rd, Ben Rhodes 4th, Crafton 5th, Stuart Friesen 6th. Help me with this first name. Is it Matt or Myatt?
Myatt.
Myatt Snyder. Who the hell names that kid Myatt? Well, Mrs. Snyder, obviously.
Yeah.
He's in 7th. Jesse Little 8th. Grant Enfinger 9th. And Austin Dillon 10th. Just barely missing the top 10 was Parker Kligerman, having a good showing in the trucks. Here's a guy that was coming up, and he was destined to be a Cup driver. I don't exactly know why he did the switch to broadcasting, but it seems like every time he gets in a vehicle to do a couple of these 1-2 off races, he does really well. What took Kligerman out of the car and put him into the booth?
Well, I'd probably say that, a lot of the big teams were not going to want him because, looking at his results, I'd probably say we don't have enough room for our team and I'd probably say that, maybe he just wasn't really that good. And if you look at his results, I mean, Cup Series is basically just nothing. And then Xfinity, 3 top 5s, 19 top 10s. In 2013, that was when he was driving for KBM at the time when they used to have an Xfinity team. But then you look at the Truck Series. He has 2 career wins, and they both came on the super speedways at Talladega and so forth. But he's had a decent, Truck Series record. He's had 2 wins, 15 top 5s, and 33 top 10s. I mean, it's pretty good, considering the fact that you're running for a team that runs, I don't know, maybe top 20, top 15 almost every week. But I mean, I'd probably say that, you look at, Parker between the booth and running the races. I mean, I would say that he's running for a team that's not underfunded. And he's one of those guys that, he doesn't care if he's running for the championship or not. He just wants to race and he just wants to win.
And, if that's what's good for him, God bless him. He's a New England boy like us from Westport, Connecticut. Another guy who world of potential. And, if he's happy in the booth, then be in the booth, man. Do what you love and do what you love, talking about what you love. Not unlike CJ Speedway Review, not unlike the Logan Jabroni Show or the Howard Stern Show or what have you. Whatever you're doing, do it well. And don't worry about anything. Have you ever checked out his podcast, Kicking It with Kligerman?
No, I haven't yet, but I'm gonna probably check that out soon.
I might see if he wants a shot at this show or the Logan Jabroni Show. That'd be fun. Use the Connecticut tie to get us a guest somehow.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, right. Moving right along. Now that everything seems to be working, we go to the schedule, and it was the Renai 250 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And like you mentioned, the first of 2 clinics put on by Kevin Harvick. Led the most laps, started in 5th, had a fantastic run. Nobody could touch him. And I didn't think, and I know everybody already knows by now, he won Sunday as well. I didn't think that would that would carry over, because I did say it last week. You know, when he's in an Xfinity car, Atlanta belongs to Kevin Harvick. When he's in a Cup car, he's had that one win in his, I think it was his third career start, way back when in 2001, edging out Gordon at the line. He hasn't won there since, but he's always a top 5, top 10 threat. Saturday was just the first of 2 classes he gave to every other driver. So let's swing away from Kevin Harvick. And again, without the video, you can't see all my Kevin Harvick gimmickry, all my koozies. I got everything out for Kevin Harvick Appreciation Day. But one thing that struck me as a little bit disappointing in this race was, again, I know I'm jumping the gun. We usually do this after the top 10, but it's hard to look at this top 40 and see Cole Custer in 39th. What happened?
So early on in the race, I remember Kevin Harvick was racing a couple of guys that was like kind of like in the top 10 or whatever it was and so forth. So what happened was John Hunter Nemechek, who was making his first career start in the Xfinity Series for Chip Ganassi, he was coming off at turn 4, and he was racing against Custer for position. Next thing you know, the 42 car got loose and got into the 00 just a little bit, and then next thing you know, the 00 hit the wall coming on the front stretch, which that brought out the caution on lap 12. And actually, if you looked at John Hunter's interview after the race, you know, he pretty much admitted saying, you know, it was his fault. You know, he didn't really mean to do it and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I look at, you know, Cole Custer's finishes the last 2 races, you know, didn't get off to a good start at Daytona, didn't get off to a good start this weekend at Atlanta. And I look at this team right now, and I have to say that, you know, they really need to start to rebound, even though it's only like the second race of the season. But this is a team that, you know, that won last year at Homestead, not only won Homestead, but just dominated Homestead. And that was pretty much my sighting of, okay, this is going to be a team to watch for this season. But now you go to the first 2 races, you know, he ends up getting caught up in a crash. But I really think this 00 could rebound. You know, they were pretty good on the 1.5 miles last year, and you know, some of them, you know, some of the tracks that they could probably work on as well. But other than that, you know, I don't really think, you know, Custer, you know, is in trouble just yet. But I'm going to probably give him maybe a couple races. And if he doesn't do well, like, you know, during like the spring or whatever it is, then I'm just going to have to hit the panic button and so forth.
I wouldn't quite say hit the panic button that early. Again, I know we said it with Kyle Larson on the Cup side, is that you give him until perhaps the May race, the All-Star race in the 600, which the Xfinity Series does their gimmick too, and the Truck Series all in Charlotte that weekend. But, you know, it's too early to, you know, start making funeral arrangements for the 00 team. Like you said, there's plenty of opportunity to bounce back. The season's young. We're 2 races in. Could we say the same thing about Jimmy Johnson on the Cup side? 2 races in. He's in the 30s in points. He hasn't had a finish higher than 30, you know, but he's Jimmy Johnson. Cole Custer's the young gun coming up. If anybody's going to panic, it is Cole Custer. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I would not worry if I were the race owners. I would not panic if I were the crew or the crew chief or anybody on that team. Bad luck happens, and he is going to bounce back. I have no doubt about it. So I'll run down the top 10 real quick. As we mentioned, Kevin Harvick pilots the 98 car to victory lane, leading the most laps. Joey Logano second. Christopher Bell third after starting on the pole. John Hunter Nemechek fourth. Elliott Sadler fifth. Justin Allgaier sixth. Austin Cindric seventh. Kyle, it's all about the Benjamin eighth. Ryan Truex ninth. And Ryan Reed in 10th. Some other notables that didn't crack the top 10. Daniel Hemrick, Matt Tiff, Ty Dillon. Chase Briscoe put on a good showing in 15th, and Dylan Lupton in 21st. I did want to ask you about Kaz Gralla. Started 20th, ended 23rd. Was his day that bad?
Yeah, I would probably say that, you know, it was kind of like in the average, in the top 20 most of the day. But, you know, you look at it, you know, 23rd, decent, but, you know, kind of close to being a top 20. But other than that, you know, I'd say pretty much an average run for the 2014.
Understood. Did anybody stick out other than, obviously, Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell being right up top. Who was your biggest surprise in the race?
My biggest surprise, would definitely have to be John Hunter Nemechek because, going into his first Xfinity race, I said, okay, I think this kid's going to run well, but I really want to see how he does. And to pull off a fourth place finish, I was really impressed. But like I said, think about last year when Tyler Reddick was driving a couple of races in the 42 car. Next thing you know, boom, gets his first career win in Kentucky. Next thing you know, a year later is running full-time in the Xfinity Series for Junior Motorsports. So now, pretty much my question is, what do you think John Hunter Nemechek's going to do in the 42 car this year? And then let's say, if he does win a race or two, who do you think's going to pick him up?
Good question. I know he's running the limited series for Chip Ganassi Racing. I don't think he lands a full-time ride this year. I think what you're going to see is there might be, and I'm going to stress might, there might be a team that may have hard luck all year that is a bigger team. I hate to say it, but right now the panic button is not on. But Cole Custer really needs to step it up, and there's a long, long season ahead of us. Just in looking at some of these teams, there's not really one that I could say, this guy's on the verge of losing his job. But if one of these guys did lose his job, or say you have someone move up full time, he could easily take one of those seats. Then again, I can look at the one of Elliott Sadler. Elliott Sadler's not getting any younger, and he may not want to stick around forever. He's a guy in his 40s. He's raced at every level of competition you can in NASCAR.
Right.
Eventually, he's going to call it a day. Could we see John Hunter Nemechek in the one next year? Perhaps. I want to look through this list again because I don't think there's too many more elder statesmen on that Xfinity series. There really isn't. Morgan Shepherd, he comes in for a cup of coffee and he goes home. Jeff Green comes in for a cup of coffee, goes home. These are not guys that have to worry about a seat. But the one that pops into my mind really is the one of Elliott Sadler. Could this be it for Sadler? We don't know. After last year, I figured his fires are stoked and he's ready to, turn it up and turn it on.
Right.
We'll just have to see how the season plays out. But I think you will see John Hunter Nemechek land himself a full-time Xfinity ride next season if he can show that this one race, having such a fantastic finish, isn't a fluke. Much like Bubba Wallace last week. Comes home second in the Daytona 500. This week, not so much, and we'll get into the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500.
Yep.
Which, wow, again, big surprise for me, but it seems no surprise to anybody else. Kevin Harvick puts on another clinic, and I got to say, before we go any further, I honestly thought Brad Keselowski had something for him in those closing laps, but it seemed like every time Brad got close, Harvick pulled away. It's like you're reeling in a fish, and every time the fish gets near the boat, the fish fucking takes off again. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to say that word. But the fish takes off again. What did Harvick have that Keselowski didn't have?
I would probably say, he just had the car that knew how to get around the bottom and mostly just run up on the middle of the racetrack. And actually, I was watching a little bit of this race on Sunday, and there were some guys that took a different pit strategy than what Kevin Harvick did most of the race. I know that Logano and Hamlin, they took some different strategies, like during the mid part of the race, kind of the end part of the race and so forth. And then once that caution came out, near the end, that's when everybody, pitted for tires and so forth. But I don't know. I mean, I'd probably say comparing from Saturday to Sunday, I think Harvick had a really good car. And you go back to the race last year, yes, he dominated, 292 laps, could have won, without, having the speeding on pit road whatsoever. But you go back to the race on Sunday, and what's actually kind of different was, and I don't know if you saw this, but there was one part in the race where some of the pit crew guys had trouble, putting the lug nuts on with the air gun. And I guess the air gun kind of took a little bit of time, coming off the pit road. And I think after the first stage, that was when Harvick lost a few spots coming off in pit road. And actually, you could see Truex's crew, they were just chatting on how the air gun was going. It's like, oh, I couldn't get it on the tire quick enough. And, that's how we lost valuable time. And then, of course, And I guess Steve O'Donnell said on Monday, or I think it was like Tuesday or so, that they're going to take a look at this air gun situation. And not only that, like, hopefully they can get an air gun that can get the tire on quick enough, because I think this is something that's brand new that these pit crew guys are using this year.
Yeah, it's the first time they're using these guns, and they're NASCAR mandated. They didn't have any time to really get a feel for them before they shoved it on them to go into the 2018 season. But going back to that Harvick pit stop, he lost 7 spots in that.
Yeah.
And you'll notice, and again, maybe he had the speed, maybe he had the track figured out. There was just times where I just thought he was out there on a nice Sunday drive, no pun intended,
right,
and just watching other cars as he's passing them by. And there's a bird, and there's a tree, and there's a little old lady walking her dog. He was just out there. Seriously, that's what it seemed like. He was just out there, la, 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 la. And Keselowski be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go join Kevin. But every time he got close, Kevin pulled away. Brad Keselowski deserves a lot of credit for hanging and really giving Harvick a run for his money in certain spots, because those two were the class of the field all day long.
Yeah.
No one could touch them. The pitch strategy.
All right, and now looks like we just lost Chris for just a moment. I don't know if he's going to get back on the screen anytime soon, but
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So what I was saying, and I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Some of the pitch strategy used by Hamlin, Logano, and some of the other guys would be pit early. Or no, pit late. They would wait. Everybody goes in. They're going to get that track position. Maybe they'll gain a lap on people, and then the caution would come out. Now, before anybody starts saying that Vince McMahon runs NASCAR and these are fake cautions, like they used to say years ago for Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, etc., it was just dumb luck. You would see William Byron get in a little trouble. You'd see, Darrell Wallace have a little bit of a problem. Then Jimmy Johnson had his issues all day. They weren't fake cautions. It's just bad timing. But I don't think, even with that strategy, that the 22 or the 11 could have held off Harvick or Keselowski down the stretch.
Right.
So let me run through the top 10. We'll get to the notables. Kevin Harvick, once again, started third, comes home first, led the most laps. Brad Keselowski, second best car in the field, and the second place finisher. Clint Bowyer, an impressive third. Denny Hamlin, fourth. Martin Truex, fifth. Joey Logano, sixth. Kyle Busch, seventh, followed by his brother Kurt Busch in eighth. Kyle Larson, ninth. And Chase Elliott, 10th. Other notables, we minted a brand new NASCAR fan this weekend, young lady by the name of Sarah. She has chosen her driver, and that was the 12th place finish of Ryan Blaney. Your Daytona 500 champion, Austin Dillon, comes home 14th. Going down the list, William Byron, not the best day, in 18th. We mentioned Ryan Newman briefly, had the lead. He finished 22nd. Jimmy Johnson, 27th. And probably most disappointing for me, Bubba Wallace, 32nd. Again, we have to disqualify Harvick from this question. Who was the biggest surprise of the race for you?
So my biggest surprise this weekend. If you look at the top 10 list, it's mostly been dominated by Fords and Toyotas. And if you look at between 9th and 10th, the only two finishers between 9th and 10th were Chevrolet. So now I'm kind of looking at this and I'm going, okay, so do you think we're going to see, the Fords and Toyotas dominate the mile and a halfs this season? Because if you looked at last year, most of the mile and a halfs were dominated by the Toyotas, either Furniture Row or, Joe Gibbs Racing. But now I'm looking at this list and I'm kind of looking at it. I'm seeing okay, so maybe the mile and a half is going to be the preview between, Team Penske, Stuart Haas, and then mostly Joe Gibbs, Furniture Row. So this is the only thing I'm kind of thinking of, as we speak. But other than that, my surprise this weekend, definitely surprise disappointment has to be Bubba Wallace, finishing in the 32nd. But, other than that, I really think this kid, is going to do a lot of big things this year, and hopefully, he he can try and win a race, lock himself into the playoffs for sure.
Well, my surprise was a good surprise. Seeing Clint Boyer have such a bounce-back race and come home with a third-place finish. Not the best car, but he had something at the end. He wasn't going to catch Keselowski. He was not going to catch Harvick. But to put up a third-place finish after a lot of people, if you belong to any of these fan sites like I do about Stewart-Haas Racing or this or that, they want Boyer's head in a bowling bag. Whereas I keep saying you got to give this guy a little time. You know he can win.
Right.
You know he's good. He was handpicked by Tony Stewart to get into his car.
Yeah.
He doesn't suck. You can go back to, again, 2001, the unfortunate passing of Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt was going to retire in a couple years. Handpicked his successor.
Yeah.
So if you're picked by a legend, by a multiple-time champion, you do not suck. Unfortunately, like we say, bad luck can hit anybody. And I think Boyer in the last year has had quite the run of bad luck. And this race may just be the stepping stone he needed to get back into the winning circle, get back into the playoffs, get back into contention, and turn his bad luck around.
Absolutely, and if you look at Boyer's results last season, first season with Stewart-Haas, 6 top 5s, 13 top 10s, which wasn't really too bad. You look at the races last year. Yes, there was probably, I would say, 2 or maybe 3 races that he should have won. You look at Bristol, ended up finishing runner-up. You look at Sonoma on the road course, finishing runner-up. Then you go to Daytona. Anything happens on the super speedways, he finishes runner-up as well. But it's not only that this team ran good last year, they ran consistent, but, there were some races where they either got caught up in a wreck or they just ran into like something that wasn't their own doing and so forth. And, and not to mention, like, this was Boyer's first year with the team as well. So I think with the second time around, I would definitely say that, Boyer is definitely going to be a one to watch, especially when it comes to the mile and a half, because like I said, the Fords and the Toyotas just dominated Atlanta this past Sunday. And like I said, I think this is going to be the preview of what we're going to see when coming up on the next mile and a half tracks this season.
Sure. One of the things I want to ask you before we get into previewing Las Vegas is, do you think that the Camaro body style, let's take Austin Dillon's win out last week, because like you said, anything can happen on the super speedways at these restricted plate races. We all know how unpredictable they are. There's a reason why Derek Cope has a Daytona 500 championship, because anything can happen.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's going to be a learning curve for the Camaro, for the Chevy teams, and how long do you think it's going to be before they figure it out?
I'd probably say, like, it's not going to take them, like, too long. I mean, I know it's a new body car, and I know it's pretty fast, and I think this body car is going to win a lot of races this year, but I'd probably say last Sunday, like, they just couldn't get, like, the strategy, like, from what all the other teams had. And you look at all the Chevrolet drivers, like, they finished, like, pretty much either, like, from 9th all the way down to, like, low is like 34th, but I don't know.
Okay, let me run those before you finish your point. Let me run off the Chevy finishing positions. Okay. 9th, 10th, 14th, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Are we seeing a trend here? 30, 32, 33, 34. I can't attribute a bad car or anything to a lot of these race car drivers. Jeffrey Earnhardt and Harrison Rhodes, perhaps. Darrell Wallace, bad luck. Ross Chastain, Allmendinger, Cole Witt, yeah, they're going to run behind. Jimmy Johnson, Ty Dillon, Ryan Newman, Casey Kane, Alex Bowman, a lot of these guys who know how to get to the front couldn't find the front if you gave them a map on Sunday. I think the learning curve, and again, I know I'm repeating myself over and over again. Chevy has to figure this out by the time we hit All-Star Weekend, or there's going to have to be some sort of overhaul with the body type. I know they're committed to Camaro for this season and probably a few seasons forward, but they have to figure out how to get that car up into the front. Is it aero? Is it drag? what is the thing that is keeping the Chevys way back in the field?
I'd probably say that since this is pretty much the first mile and a half racetrack this year, and a lot of more races to go. I definitely say like it would have to do with maybe like the aero, because like I said, like they just couldn't keep up with like the Fords and the Toyotas this past weekend. But I'm actually looking on a stat. So if you go back to 1995, when Chevrolet debuted the Monte Carlo,
Mm-hmm.
they ended up winning 21 times between Sterling Marlin, the Hendrick guys, Jeff Gordon, Labonte, and then Dale Earnhardt, mostly and then mostly Bobby Labonte from Joe Gibbs and so forth. Ford only won like less than what the Chevrolets won that year, and then Pontiac only won like one race that season. But I would say that with the Camaro ZL1, yeah, I do think it's fast. I think it's going to win races, but I would say from now, and yes, this was like the second race of the season, and it's a mile and a half, and we got another one coming up this weekend too. So I really think the race teams, they're definitely going to have to figure this car out and see like what they can improve on, how they can step it up, and how they can compete with the Toyotas and Fords this season.
Well, I certainly hope they do, because there's still a lot of guys who run under the bow tie that I really like, and I would love to see go to victory lane on a mile and a half, on a short track, on a Martinsville, on a Bristol, wherever they go. It's always nice to see the different makes and models get up into victory lane. Unless it's the 18 or the 48, then they can crash and burn. I don't care.
Right.
Anyway, let's move forward. Let's get away from Kevin Harvick weekend. Let's go to Las Vegas. First on the docket is the Stratosphere 200, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. The entry list, not a lot of surprises. There's a couple TBAs. The one car has no driver at this point. The 74 has no driver at this point. All your usual suspects, a couple new names I've never seen before in here. So it's going to be interesting. Again, Las Vegas, another track like Atlanta, like Chicago, mile and a half, big speed, carries off into the corners. It's always fun, fast, and furious. Give me your lock. Give me your dark horse.
So my lock this weekend is definitely going to have to be Kyle Busch. It's like I said, whenever like he steps into a truck, there's just no doubt in my mind that he's going to end up like winning the race and so forth. And yes, he could have won last Sunday at Atlanta, had the mishap coming off a pit road with a tire that came off. And, again, it wasn't his wrongdoing or anything. It's just like the wrong place at the wrong time. And actually, there's a little bit of a statistic on this. So this is actually the first time that Kyle Busch is going to be even running a truck at Las Vegas since 2001.
Wow.
And yeah, I didn't even know that at first, but I'm actually looking at his results that season. Only made a few starts. His best career finish was 9th twice at Indianapolis Raceway Park. And then, of course, the last time he was running a truck at Las Vegas was when he also finished 9th as well. But yes, I think, it's definitely going to be the Kyle Busch show. Definitely a Las Vegas and so forth. My dark horse definitely is going to have to be Noah Gragson. Like I said, those were the only two trucks that dominated Atlanta this past weekend. And I really think, and this is going to be a preview of what's to come, when the trucks hit the mile and a half's coming up this season.
Okay. Well, I too chose Kyle Busch as my lock. Better he win in a truck than anywhere around Kevin Harvick on the Cup Series, right, or anybody else for that matter. I know this is becoming the I Hate Kyle Busch hour featuring Chris and Corey, but you know what? It's our show. I can do what I want.
Yeah.
My dark horse, and it's going to be someone I want to get that much-needed win to push this season in a good direction. I would love to see Justin Haley. I'm going to take him as my dark horse. I don't know much about him. I just know he's tough. He's competitive. He's just someone you want to win. He's one of those names where, you can look at the Cup Series like a Kyle Larson. If you're not a fan of Kyle Larson, you're not upset when he wins. And then when he started winning, you're not upset that he's winning even more. Justin Haley is Kyle Larson, is Martin Truex. He's one of those guys that you just want to give your support to.
And for a kid who's 18 years old, I mean, it wouldn't really surprise me if he ends up winning this year. And actually, and I probably said this on the last show too, because last season he only ran about like 21 races, because I believe the first 5 races last season he wasn't even 18, and then I think he turned 18 back in April, so then he pretty much ran like most of the remainder part of the season. And last year he ended up finishing 3 top 5s, 12 top 10s, pretty good, with GMS, and I really expect a lot of big things out of that 24 truck this season.
All right, I hear you on that one. And we're going to move on to Saturday, 4 p.m., the Boyd Gaming 300. Looking at the list, there's most of your usual suspects, couple new names thrown in. And I'm going to go first on this one because I'm probably going to sound just like we just did. I'm going to take Kyle Busch as my lock. It's going to be – he's home. This is his home track. He's from Las Vegas. He's going to want to come out and do the three-peat that he's done so many times over the years. But he's not going to pull off the three-peat. I'll give him the truck race, and I'm going to give him the Xfinity race because when it comes to the Cup, I'll tell you why then. Not really a dark horse, but someone who I'm going to choose as the dark horse, Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson needs a boost this season. And if he can pick up the win in the Xfinity in the 42, that may be just what it takes to put aside the sad flavor in his mouth from last season and get this season started just with a bang. The last 2 weeks, not so great for him. This week, this could be the turnaround. And I know we usually do points toward the end of the season. It's too early, guys. I'd really rather not go through the rigmarole of telling you, here's the top 10, here's your championship guys, because right now in each series, we only have 2 names. So it makes no sense to do that.
Right.
I think if Kyle Larson's going to have any sort of springboard, it's going to be this weekend, 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon at the Boyd Gaming 300.
All right, so I'd probably say my lock is definitely going to be Kyle Busch because, even though there's going to be a couple Cup guys in the field, which obviously, of course, I'm not really kind of a huge fan of the Cup guys in the field, but, it just makes it exciting racing anyway. But
you're starting to sound like somebody I know.
I mean, of course, now that NASCAR came out with the rule and, I mean, do I like it? Kind of, but, I just don't think, now you're not going to see them run a lot of the Cup races this year. And then not to mention you got the guys that are doing the three driver switch them and all that stuff too. So Kyle Busch is definitely going to be my lock. Sleeper, I'm going to have to go with Christopher Bell. I mean, we all saw what he did last year at Kansas, and we saw what he did last year on the 1.5 miles in the Truck Series a year ago. And I really think this kid can do it. I mean, he ran well in Atlanta this past weekend. He came home in the top 5, which is great. Rebounded from a crash at Daytona a week ago, but I really think this is going to be a kid who I think is going to be a one to watch this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the championship as a rookie, like we've seen out of William Byron and Chase Elliott.
Absolutely, and then we go to Sunday, 9 p.m. It's the Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube. Again, double sponsors, pissing me off. There's a couple of surprises in this race, and I'm just going to go straight down to that 51 car of Cole Custer.
Yep.
And to see him have a Cup car this weekend is going to be fantastic. Not quite sure which team he's running for, though. Any back info on that?
He's going to be running the 51 car for Rick Ware Racing.
Okay. Rick Ware is a name that was big back in the day.
Yep.
Again, usual suspects. I'll let you go first. Give me your lock. Give me your dark horse. And then if you had one hopeful, who would it be? Because I'm going to shock a lot of people with my pick.
Okay, so my lock, my thinking was, I do want to see Kyle pull the triple, but I just don't know. I mean,
well, this show is over. We're done. I canceled the show for the rest of the
But no, I probably say my lock. It's pretty much a toss up at this point. But if I'm gonna have to pick one right now, I would definitely, and I'm gonna have to pull a big gamble on this one. So I'm definitely gonna say Kyle's gonna pull the three-peat at Las Vegas. Now the reason why I'm saying this is if he has everything right. if he does everything right in
Yep.
the race on Sunday, like if he does the right strategy, if he does everything off like in his favor, I really think he can pull this off, without a doubt. My dark horse, I'm going to have to go with the 4 Kevin Harvick because, like I said, he dominated Atlanta last week, and most of the Fords dominated Atlanta and the mile and a half. So I think this is going to be one of the Fords who I think is going to be one to watch for when it comes on the mile and a halves. And if you think about it, the last 2 mile and a halves that Harvick ended up winning on was not only Texas a year ago, but also Atlanta this past weekend. And then my one hopeful, I'm definitely gonna have to say Cole Custer on that one. I really want to see how this kid does in the Cup Series this weekend, and I really want to see how he does like in the near future. And everything goes pretty right. If Kurt Busch doesn't have a good season this year, chances are you might see Cole Custer in that 41 car in 2019.
Not a bad thought on your part. We're going to be a little in lockstep. We're not going to be completely in lockstep. When it comes to my lock, it's momentum, momentum, momentum. And right now on the circuit, no one has more momentum than Kevin Harvick. He is going to be my lock. It's a racetrack he is not notoriously good at, but he always seems to be in the hunt. And coming off the big win in Atlanta this weekend, that was a big burden off his shoulders, being like, I hate to say it, but like the Chase Elliott of Atlanta Motor Speedway. Second. Yeah. So maybe the momentum of the weekend is going to of this past weekend in Atlanta will carry him. And he always does well on the West Coast swing every single time. Yeah. Here's where we go in reverse. My dark horse is the 18 of Kyle Busch. Again, the triple. It's history. He's done it more than anybody. So if there's one guy that can pull it off, and I dare say you could throw any of these guys that have done that have run the 3 Series, the truck, the Xfinity, and there aren't many of them. I'm just looking down the list. Harvick has. I'd put Kyle Busch above all of them when it comes to trying to pull off a triple. Harvick's done a couple of doubles. He just did one last weekend. He did one a few years ago. But when he finally cut down KHI and said, I'm focusing strictly on the Cup Series, it turned around for him, and now he is always a championship contender instead of being, wow, he could have done better maybe if he focused himself. Right. So that's my sleepers, Kyle Busch. If he pulls off the triple, good on him. I don't want to turn this into the I hate Kyle Busch hour. I'm not going to pick Custer as my hopeful, although I do hope he does well. But again, I told you I was going to shock a lot of people. Damn, it's going to kill me to say it. My hopeful is Jimmy Johnson. Bad luck can't last forever.
Right.
And, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't have to like Jimmy Johnson. I don't have to like Chad Canals. I don't have to be impartial when it comes to this show and reporting on Jimmy Johnson. One thing I do have to do is recognize 7 championships. What is he, 6th all-time in wins, give or take?
Yeah.
The man can drive the wheels off of anything he gets behind. I'm sure if there was a boat race somewhere, he could find a way to win it.
Yeah.
But this bad luck can't continue. I know as a lot of the multiple champions get older, they don't necessarily lose their skill. They lose their confidence. And I don't know if Jimmy Johnson has lost his confidence, but if the last 2 weeks are any indication, look, he's won Daytona before, but historically, he would much rather take Daytona 500 off the map and not race it, and he could still run the other 35 and be a contender. I think Vegas could be a turnaround for Jimmy Johnson. You want a guy like that in the championship 16. Why? Because if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best.
Yeah.
And right now, again, you might want to mark this down, February 28th, 9:52 p.m., or whenever this is you guys are listening to it. Right now, despite Truex holding up that trophy, he was the best of 2017.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the best race car driver on the circuit based on championships, pedigree, etc., is Jimmy Johnson. And I'm really hoping that this weekend is a turnaround for him.
And even though he's won at a lot of racetracks before, and there's a couple of racetracks where he's been really successful on, and I would say that the only two racetracks in his career that are pretty much his bread and butter are mostly Martinsville and Dover. And I was actually thinking about this today, and I said, okay, so if he doesn't win, all the races this year, I'm going to give him, pretty much Martinsville and Dover and see how he does there. And then if he doesn't win at those two racetracks, then I'm pretty much going to say, okay, something's up with the 48. What's going on?
Right. The panic button you brought up earlier with Cole Custer. For the Jimmy Johnson team, yes, you can hit the panic button after the first three races if you have 3 sub-30 finishes.
Yeah.
What are we doing wrong? Is it the car? Is it the setup? Is it the engine? Is it the driver? Or is it just plain stupid bad luck?
Right.
There's going to come a time, if Jimmy Johnson continues to have this string of bad luck that he has been having, that they really have to take a good hard look and go, okay, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Again, Daytona, the biggest crapshoot on the circuit until you get to Talladega. Though, the 2 Daytonas and 2 Talladegas, it's a crapshoot. We've seen it. Anybody can win.
Yep.
But when you go to a mile and a half where Jimmy Johnson, like Atlanta, he runs well, bad luck. Now we're going to Vegas. If he has another string of bad luck, that team really needs to take a good hard look at what's going on and figure out, how are we going to fix this?
Right.
So your panic button theory on Cole Custer, I'm just going to transfer it to Jimmy Johnson. Who hits the button? Is it going to be Rick Hendrick? Is it going to be Chad Canals? Who hits the panic button?
Well, I'd probably say if they get off to a really bad start this year, it's definitely going to have to be the team owner. And, Rick, and like I said, Rick Hendrick, is going to have to make that decision of, okay, what am I going to do with Johnson and Canals? And not to mention, Rick Hendrick's a business guy. He knows how to work with drivers pretty well, and he knows how to pick up really good drivers and crew chiefs and so forth. But I'd probably say that, if the 48 guys don't do good this year, I think there's going to be a lot of changes. Maybe I would say about next year or so forth.
Okay, fair enough. Is there anything you want to pimp out right now?
So let's go to the penalties that NASCAR gave out officially today.
Oh,
so let's go down here. So let's see. We'll start off on the Cup side. So good news is Kevin Harvick ended up winning the race on Sunday. Bad news is, goes to post-race inspection, boom. They end up getting one unsecured lug nut, in which NASCAR ruled it a safety violation. Crew chief Rodney Childress was fined $10,000. On the Xfinity side, 2 teams were also penalized for unsecured lug nuts, and that was the 42 of John Hunter Nemechek and the 52 of David Starr. Crew chiefs Mike Shiplett and Tim Brown they've both been fined $5,000 each. Then the truck series, and this one's very interesting. So the Ford truck of Kyle Busch was penalized for a safety violation for an improperly installed wheel. Busch apparently lost his left rear wheel when he was coming out of the pit box. Crew chief Marcus Richmond, rear tire changer Coleman Dollarhide, Jackman, Ernie Pierce have all been suspended for 3 races. And so a little bit after that, Marcus Richmond took on the Twitter, quote, "I definitely made a mistake last week at Atlanta. I called for right side tires while focusing on the right front. I'm glad the pit crew did not get suspended from the Cup races with support of Kyle Busch Motorsports, which is at KBM team. And all the guys on the 4 team will pull through and not miss a beat." Off quote. And actually one more before we pimp out the end of the show. So there has been a little bit of rumblings that Jeff Gordon might be coming back.
Yes.
mostly I think in the Truck Series. And I don't know if you saw this, but a fan wrote to him on Twitter asking him, like, if is there any possibility, you might run a limited Xfinity schedule or a Truck Series schedule in the future. And Jeff Gordon kind of like pointed this out, and I really thought this was fantastic. He said, "Well, I definitely love to run a truck race at Martinsville, because he's won there 9 times. He's had a lot of success over there throughout the years, and I would say that a lot of teams in the Truck Series would be interested in having Jeff Gordon like in the seat for one race." And it's actually kind of funny because Ray Evernham ends up writing on Twitter saying, "I'm in." And then Martinsville Speedway's Twitter page wrote, "Oh my goodness, this would be amazing." So I would say that, Jeff Gordon, if you're definitely watching this right now on February 28th, 2018, and the Truck Series don't go to Martinsville until like 4 weeks, run the Truck Series. We love to see you run a truck race in Martinsville. I don't care how you do in the race, but we just want to see you run again.
Absolutely.
I think that would be awesome for the fans. It'd be awesome for the track. And hey, if he does pull off a win at Martinsville, I'd be really happy if he did.
It's great to see, even when he filled in for Dale Jr. during the whole concussion bit, running the 88, it was great to see Jeff Gordon be behind the wheel of a car. Was he uber competitive? No, not really. But it was still Jeff Gordon. And again, when you can run against the best and beat the best, you've had a good day. So to see him behind the wheel of anything, I would love him to come down here to Montville, Connecticut, 2 towns over. They have a place called NASCAR where you can run go-karts around this fantastic little track for a crazy amount of money. I'd love to see him drive down there. And if I could drive against him and win, hey, better for me. It's a moment where you can say, I raced the best and I beat the best.
Yeah.
So absolutely. If you guys want to chime in on this, his Twitter handle is @JeffGordonWebb. You can go send your, I don't know what you would say, your pleas of please come and run this truck race. In fact, I don't know if I'm still blocked by Jeff Gordon. I'm going to check that now because I sent him a really nasty tweet about 7 years ago.
Oh boy.
I got blocked. So I'm wondering if I'm still blocked, and I'm going to that now. So let me get my little Twitter machine going, and here we go. Whoop, wait a minute. You guys, this is pure radio here, man. We're doing it.
Right.
Am I in? Oh, I'm not in Twitter jail. Thank God. Okay, @Jeff. Oh, there it is. I'm not blocked.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So please run. Here we go. Please run the trucks someplace this season, and then I am going to tag us at CJ Speedway, at Corey Huff 33 gimmickschnabitzfernum.com,
Yep,
at Seaburns 19, and just for shits and gigs at Loki and Jabroni. So if you guys want to do this, tag all of us in your tweet at Jeff Gordon Webb. Tell him we want to see him in the trucks. We want to see him out there. We want to see him it's always great to have Jeff Gordon. I can't believe I'm saying this. Somewhere in Indiana, my friend Chad's head is exploding right now because I'm saying more good stuff about Jeff Gordon after spending 18 years of putting him into the ground. But, like you said, it's always great to have Jeff Gordon behind the wheel of anything.
Definitely.
So pimp away, my friend. What do you got to tell the people this week?
All right, so Facebook, follow me at NASCAR IndyCar Central. Twitter, we are at NASCAR IndyCar. Twitter at NASCAR Indy. My bad. Instagram at NASCAR IndyCar. So just make sure you guys remember the memo. And then also, other than that, can't wait for the West Coast swing, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it all goes. And all I can just say is if I was out in Las Vegas right now, I'd be pretty much cashing my bets on the 18th.
Now, one thing I want to mention is that this is going to be the last truck race for 3 weeks this weekend. So if you are a truck racing fan, get your fix this weekend because then they have a 3-week hiatus before they come back in Martinsville on the 24th.
Yes.
So, and this weekend, hopefully, I'll be watching once again at the 7TV Megadome, known as the Azarju Mini Mansion. And I need to tell you this now, Corey. Mark and I were talking, watching the race this weekend. He'd really love you to come down one Sunday and take in a race at his place when he throws one of these parties. He digs you. He digs the show. He watches when he can. So this is me right now extending the invite to you to come down to Montville, Connecticut, to the Azarju Mini Mansion and take in a NASCAR race with all of us.
Well, I'll look at my schedule and I'll see what I can do.
What's on your schedule? Shaving? Come on. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Sundays are for NASCAR, my man. You know this.
That's right.
Okay, so real quick plug, guys. I would really appreciate it. Anybody watching this show, by the way, I have a shout out. I can't believe I almost forgot this. Let me go to our Facebook page real quick. This week we hit 100 likes, which is fantastic. Thank you again. Tell your friends. But I wanted to shout this person out. Our 100th like is a gentleman named Eddie Florentino. Don't know anything about you. It says you're from Saugus, Massachusetts. I'm looking up your profile now. Oh, look, his friend is Corey Huffnagel. No fucking kidding. Oh, there I did it again. Damn it. All right, I'm going to need a filter from now on.
Right.
I really am. Either that or my kids can't piss me off before I come and do this show. But Eddie Florentino, thank you so much for being our 100th like. I'm going to try to figure out something nice to do for you, as we did with our 100 like on the Loki and Jabroni show. So you will get something special. I just have to figure it out, and hopefully in the next 2 weeks I'll have an announcement. I'll get with Corey. We'll figure it out. One thing I want to push to you guys is one of the best ways to support the show is www.patreon.com/Loki and Jabroni. It's all under one umbrella. Both shows benefit from donations. Also go to www.lokiandjabroni.com. If you shop with Amazon, please use our link. Once again, money comes back to us. We can help make this show better. cafepress.com/Loki and Jabroni. Eddie and I were just talking about it last night. We want to get a couple C&J Speedway review shirts available for the general public. So if you like the show, you have the shirt, you wear it to a race, somebody says, what's C&J Speedway review? There is no better advertiser than the people who listen to this show and follow us every week. So those are my pimpages. If you did not catch the Loki and Jabroni show last night, I beg you, go to the Facebook page, like it, and check out the hilarity with New England stand-up comic Big E and C. Ian Cunningham. You might have seen some of his viral parody song videos like Amendola, Brady Pull Me Closer, Mo Brady, Mo Gronk, the Gronk song. For a Jets fan, he writes a lot of Patriots-themed songs, but you'll hear all about that on the show. You'll hear him trigger me with talk about a guy I'm not allowed to name other than on the show. I can't name him here because nobody will give half a crap. So you'll hear Big E&C, and he is funny as hell. You should check him out at Big E&C on Twitter, BIGIANC. And whatever you do not disparage Hulk Hogan and do not disparage the Relish King. Those are the two rules. Sorry, just deal with it. Corey, you've watched the show before. What do you think of Loki and Jabroni?
I think it's a really good show, and you guys bring a lot of good stuff to the table. And I probably say my first appearance, it was kind of interesting, especially it was the weekend after the Super Bowl and so forth. But I think it's pretty interesting, and for the guys that that are interested in music, that are interested in WWE and whatever is going on in the world, please visit. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, WWE is something we talk about a little bit here and there, especially when the big shows come up. But we are a big sports-themed podcast. We talk about everything, especially with the monthly Do You Know What's Effed Up, where we just bring news stories to the table and say, how the hell is this world even still existing with morons like this? Producer Eddie Focus comes in every week with his Ted Nugent Award every time we do this particular thing. And the Ted Nugent Award is for a celebrity, a politician, whomever, that just says the dumbest thing that you could possibly think of. So once again, our Twitter is at CJ_Speedway. Follow us there. Corey pretty much runs it. So I may or may not ever see it, but I do check in. So,
Thank you.
And someday, we'll get a little something going. I don't have an Instagram. I don't play with Instagram or Snapchat or any of that gimmick. I do the Facebook and the Twitter. So you'll see me check in now and again. What I want to do sometime soon is, and Corey, if you could do this on the Twitter, and maybe this will be something we can do at the end of every Wednesday, is put up a poll on C&J Speedway Review Twitter and get a poll going. Take some of our picks and our dark horses, throw them up on a poll, and see what the people think.
Okay.
And I'll try to do the same thing with Facebook. I'm still learning how to do certain things like that. When you get old like me, everything's all typewriter and corded phones and everything like that.
Yeah, the future is changing, my friend.
Yes, it is. And one more shameless plug. I'm sorry about this, but we are literally, and I'm going to go to the calendar here, we are 5 weeks away from the 3rd anniversary of the Loki and Jabroni Show. And what are we bringing you? We're bringing you one half of the #1 2017 podcast, Crime in Sports. Also has an offshoot called Small Town Murder. Jimmy Wisman, another stand-up comedian, is coming on the show. He's going to tell you all about the 2 podcasts. If you like them, if you try them out, tell them C&J Speedway Review and the Loki and Jabroni Show sent you. Let them know how much we are excited about having Jimmy Wisman on the phone all the way from Arizona to be on the show and share crime and sports, small town murder, comedy, etc. Who cares? As long as somebody says, yay, I'm going to be happy. Have you ever listened to them?
No, I have not listened to them, but I'll probably take a look and see how they are.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give all of you guys a little special treat right now. I'm going into my podcasts right now. Crime and Sports. There it is. Available episodes. I'm going to give you an episode number. I'm not going to tell you who it is about, but you will have a great time. It is episode number 96. It was released on December 4th, 2017. And if you are watching or listening to the C&J Speedway Review, I guarantee you will not be disappointed. You are going to love it. In fact, I'm going to listen to it again. Download it. And I'm going to listen to it on the way to work tomorrow.
All right.
So, Corey, thank you again. Technical difficulties aside, I think we had a fantastic show this week. Next week, Vegas, baby.
All
Vegas.
Right. Sin City, baby.
And, you know, when you say Sin City, all I can think about is the Hangover.
Oh, yeah. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, unless it's herpes, that shit will come back with you.
That's right.
For Corey Huffnagel, my name is Chris Burns. We will catch you next week right here on C&J Speedway Review.
Good night.